It was a pretty flipping brilliant weekend of football, wasn't it? Again.
Non-stop. when you think can't be the same again. And then you get results, goals, all sorts of incidents. Brilliant weekend.
And they're moaning about, the window shouldn't be open this long. I'm loving it. Anthony's about to sign for Manchester United. That'll give them another dynamic. We're hearing West Ham have just completed on Lucas Paqueta, which has got to improve their 11 without a doubt. So I'm actually loving it because you start in the season and sometimes results aren't quite right. Then you bring in a couple of players, transforms everything, and the results start to change. And all those early season predictions suddenly come to know. So I was thinking Sunderland might go up again. And then the manager disappears to Stoke. Prediction looks ridiculous now.
Bizarre. Well, I don't agree with the window being open after the season starts. I don't like that. I think it suits the bigger clubs and it messes up the lesser clubs. If you look at the Leicester situation with Fofana, for example, although you should have irons in the fire, if you like, at any level of recruitment, I do think that if the business gets done before the season starts, you kind of know where you're at and what you've got to work with then. A couple of games in, few games in, and the big boys have the advantage of saying we still need something and we're going to go and get it. So I don't like that, and we're one of the few countries that do it, and I think it would be beneficial for everyone if that wasn't the case. But I do love seeing new players, how they integrate into teams, how the managers change tactics, new managers employ new tactics. The start of the season is the most exciting part. It's fascinating, especially for us who love the game.
Yeah, and there's been some surprises. There's been some quality as well. Some of the football's been fantastic. So as you've just heard, we've got loads coming up over the next 3 hours. Danny, we're going to kick it off, though, with your 3 magic moments of the weekend's football. And I think the big problem for you was whittling it down to 3, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, for anybody.
Yeah.
So I've tried to think outside the box a little bit. The first one, probably the most obvious one, is just a wow moment of a wonderful goal. And also a great response after a poor evening's work at Old Trafford that we were at on Monday night was Trent Alexander-Arnold's goal. I mean, it was a phenomenal strike from a right-back, by the way.
Yeah.
And I mean, technically, I know how difficult it is to do that. And he does it so effortlessly. And also, I think, the mindset of the lad. He knows there's been some criticism. He knows he hasn't started the season brilliantly, and he still goes out and plays with this freedom and this creativity and this bravery to even try that.
I was at the game, and it was a real wow moment. I mean, actually, his goal was the biggest wow. Harvey Elliott's goal was another one.
Carvalho.
One of the Diaz's head. And I was going to say, Carvalho's finish was superb. When you consider how young he is and he's just stepping into a team that's recently been Premier League champions and European champions, there's a big future ahead for these young Liverpool players. And I include Trent in that. But it was a special goal. I heard somebody earlier today on talkSPORT say that Virgil and Trent answered their critics this weekend. Well, they didn't really, because the critics have been all about how badly they defended, and they had literally no defending to do whatsoever on Saturday. So there will be more tests for them, but they both scored, so fair play to them. Trent's goal, I'll give you that. Next one? I'm
going to go for Dean Henderson. I thought the mind games and the strength of character to guess the Kane penalty. I was, when it was given, I was trying to put myself, strangely, you do these things when you're watching football, I don't know if you do, but I do. I put myself in the goalkeeper's head and Kane's head all in the same moment. Because I took penalties for a few years, and you come up against keepers and you know that they've saved one a week before, or the type of keeper they are in terms, some are verbal, some not so much. And you generally know when someone's taken a penalty what his favourite side is. Now, Kane sometimes goes down the middle, sometimes slots it left, but his favourite one and his go-to one is where he went. But he must have known that Henderson had saved Declan Rice down there, and Kane must have been thinking he's not going to go that way again. And Henderson's thinking he's going to think I'm not going to go that way again. And so I thought it was a great double bluff from the keeper, because it would have been easier for him, I think, to go the other way, thinking that Kane will change, knowing I went that way for Declan. And especially as well as they know each other, they train together. I'm sure he's taken lots of penalties against him in England training and practices. I'm sure he has. So I found that fascinating, and well played to the goalkeeper, because I tell you what, he struck it well. He struck it all right, Kane. It wasn't a feeble penalty.
He said afterwards he wanted to lift it higher, but yeah, you're right. It wasn't weak in any way.
But to go the same way for the keeper is a similar battle for him as it is to the player going the same way as the guy the week before who missed. So I thought Henderson deserved great credit and kept his side in the game at that point. When I say I thought Forest was superb at times, actually played some great stuff. But at 1-0, they were always in it. Whereas when it second goal went in, you knew it was done. But that was a moment where you thought they could turn this round because of him. Did you see the elation in his face?
Oh, yeah, him waving his cap forever.
It was yeah, I mean, a bit much, but...
I was shouting at the say, you're 1-0 down, mate. So I'm just like...
But I thought to do that against Kane, especially, with his mind, because Kane's got ice vein, he's ice cool in those situations. So I thought credit to Henderson.
Yeah, and there was a lot of backslapping and joking afterwards. Kane did score 2 against him, so let's just bear that in mind as well. So Trent's goal, Henderson's save, number 3.
Number 3, I've gone the other way. I'd put this as number 1.
Okay.
And it would be Anthony Gordon. In a time where we jump on the negative and the attitude and egos of footballers, for a young player to go out and perform like he did, not just a goal, he was at it again, his tenacity with and without the ball, his energy, his desire to win is there for all to see. After a week of speculation, people talking about he said this, he said that, some fans are saying get rid, some fans are saying keep, hard to deal with. He must have had a tough week. And Frank knows him better than I, obviously. He's put him in there, he's told him to go out and play and do his normal thing, but the strength of character for Anthony Gordon to perform the way he did with the speculation around that lad's head and the pressure on everything he's doing at the moment, every word he says or doesn't say, I thought that showed remarkable courage. And actually, I say remarkable, it's what you should do. You should go out and give your best, but not every player does that. We've seen he wasn't sat in the stand licking his wounds. He's not knocking on the door saying I'm not right mentally, and I think it went under the radar what he did at the weekend. You
got to remember Willy Bolly didn't even turn up for Wolves, so because he wants to move. So you're right. I think I always take notes of what away fans do, and I believe Everton fans, you can tweet in if you want to tell us otherwise. But as I understand it, the Everton fans were singing his name virtually throughout the whole game. And Frank Lampard said this afterwards: I see him being an Everton player for a very long time, so we'll see if that comes true. More on Anthony Gordon in around about half an hour. If you want to give us your 3 magic moments or any magic moments from the weekend's football, feel free at talkSPORT on Twitter, at talkSPORT. We need to talk about Erling Haaland because he looks unstoppable. 6 goals in 4 matches, Danny, in the Premier League. A hat-trick at the weekend as City came from behind. He had just 18 touches of the ball. This touches of the ball thing, it's going to be a stat that's rolled out every single game because he will have very few touches but will score a lot of goals. I think it's not irrelevant but because it tells you how City are playing or how they're using him. But he's incredible, isn't he? Already we know this.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal footballer. I don't think over the years of looking at the stats when I played of nearly all the best strikers, there's many who would have lots of touches in a game if they're playing their position correctly. Usually the strikers would be the ones with the least touches when you look at the stats after when I used to do it. Depending on the style of the striker, yes, some like to come to feet a little bit more than others. But the best goal scorers on the planet will generally have less touches than most other players on the pitch. Mainly because if you're playing in a big team as well, you get lots of men in banking up around the box and in front of you, screening you, behind you. So you've got to be unselfish in keeping your position for the rest of the team to dominate. If you start going fishing for the ball and just to get touches, then it's easier to play against. So I don't really see the relevance of this analysis on his touches, because actually what you could argue is his discipline to stay high up the pitch and keep that position makes him even more special and makes him even more of a team player. Although he loves scoring goals, he's not coming to look pretty on the eye because he's not getting much of the ball. He keeps getting in there.
I also look at what Man City are doing now compared to what they've been doing in the past. And Aguero was a different kind of striker altogether again, so that's worth a comparative analysis as well. But if we're looking at where City have been without a striker, playing the false 9 and all that, and actually Pep a couple of weeks ago said we can still play with a false 9, even with Erling Haaland. But it seems to me that Pep Guardiola, and he's done this time and time again in different ways, Danny, he's challenging himself. It's almost like he's saying, okay, so can I play without a striker? And that's what he did last season. Yep, we could play without a striker. We just won the league again. Now he's saying, can I play with an out-and-out striker and leave him up there and trust him to stay alert even when he won't have many touches of the ball or be involved? And clearly we're seeing he can stay alert. He's got that concentration level. He's got the physicality. He's got the finishing clearly. So it's almost like Pep's challenging himself again to play the game in many different ways. So as soon as we start thinking, oh, yeah, you don't need a striker, then he brings in an out-and-out number 9 goal-scoring machine and says, well, we're changing the way we play again, and he's probably going to win the title again, isn't he?
Probably. I mean, it's not the most difficult challenge in the world fitting Haaland in your team with the I understand what you mean, but I think there's sometimes some things are too obvious to turn your back on. The dominance of Man City in whatever formation they play is credit to the manager. It's unbelievable what they've done without an out-and-out striker, if you like. But when there's somebody like him and available and what he can bring with the creativity you've got, it's a bit of a no-brainer, really. So I think he's right. I think there'll be games where he doesn't play and you see City line up a bit differently. But to have him as a weapon and to have him as somebody who can get those goals that only the top strikers do is a wonderful, wonderful option for them. And it's just how he manages his games. That because they're going to play in all the competitions for quite a long time, aren't they?
They are. I can't see him playing domestic cup, but we'll see what happens. It may be that Pep wants to get the League Cup back because they didn't win it last year after winning it a million times on the trot.